Welcome back to Law 254. I'm Wakili Kitty. Today I want to talk about an incident that occurred recently in Londiani, which is a devastating accident involving more than 9 vehicles and resulting to the loss of more than 55 precious lives. My heartfelt condolences goes to the family and friends of all the affected families. Mungu azidi kuwapa subra na azidi kuwafariji. All right. So today I want to talk about accidents, and I'm dedicating this video to those precious lives. So accidents usually happen anywhere, anytime. And leo unaweza ingia kwa matatu ukasema you're traveling from one destination to another, and unfortunately an accident happens and you're either hurt, maimed, or unfortunately you lose your life. In law we call those fatalities. So you're seated there wondering what happens when someone loses their lives in an accident, okay? And today that is exactly what I want to talk about. How do you deal with a situation where your family member or your close friend has been lost in an accident? So under the law, the Fatal Accidents Act and as read with the Law Reforms Act provide for situations when people lose their lives as a result of an accident. So whenever an accident happens, there is someone somewhere, because of their inaction or action or negligence, caused that accident. And when that happens, then the law will follow that person who was negligent to ensure that they compensate the family of the person who died in that accident. Okay? So you would ask yourself, but how would you follow a driver who maybe even died in the said accident? Usually the person who is followed is the owner of that vehicle. So if the driver was the owner of that vehicle, then the insurance of the owner of that vehicle is the person who is responsible. And the owner of this vehicle is followed because they are vicariously, in law we call it vicarious liability, they are vicariously liable for that accident. They are not the ones who are directly responsible in causing the accident, but because they gave their agent the vehicle, the agent is the driver, then they become vicariously liable. So today I want to talk about what sort of damages is the family of the deceased entitled to whenever they lose a loved one in an accident. Okay? So first of all, what you need to know is you need to bring this claim to court before the lapse of 3 years. If you wait until 3 years have lapsed from when the accident occurred and from when you lost your loved one, then you're going to lose the rights to prosecute this case and to get compensated. So within 3 years from when the accident happened, you need to consult a personal injury lawyer, and they'll need to help you in putting a case in court. So what damages are you looking at? So the first damage is called pain and suffering. Okay? So before the deceased died, they could before in an accident, the deceased could have died on the spot, on the scene, or they could have taken weeks or months and finally succumbed to their injuries. So however it goes, the family of the deceased can seek court to award pain and suffering for the pain and suffering that the deceased suffered before he died. So if he died on the spot, then the pain and suffering is lower. If he died after an elongated period, then the pain and suffering damage is higher because he had to endure that pain for a long period of time. So that's the first limb of damages. The second limb of damages is called loss of expectation of life. Okay? So the family and friends and the brothers and sisters, they knew that we have a father or a mother that we're going to stay with for a long period of time. Unfortunately, the accident robbed them of that. So because of that, the court will award the loss of expectation of life as a separate damage. That's damage number 2. Damage number 3 is the family members. Walikuwa wamemzoea huyu mtu. Or they know I have a brother, they know I have a sister, and especially the spouse. They know that they have some sort of communion. As a wife of someone or as a husband of someone, this is your companion, this is your life partner. And all of a sudden, they are no more. The court will award you something called the loss of consortium. It can also be awarded to the children because of the love and care that their father or their mother used to show them, and all of a sudden, it's no longer there. Okay? And then the 4th limb is called special damages. So special damages are the expenses that you had to incur, and you actually parted with money to incur as a result of the accident. It could be medical bills, to try and treat the deceased before he expired, or it could be the funeral expenses. Now all of a sudden you have to buy a coffin, you have to incur costs associated with burials, you have to hire tents, and you have mortuary expenses. All that you put the receipts down, and then the court will award you. And even if you don't put the receipts down, through your lawyers can persuade court in awarding you these damages, because it's obvious that when someone dies, there's usually a burial, and the burial comes with expenses. But if you have receipts, then it's faster and it's to scale. So if you spent 100,000 on the coffin, you'll be awarded as much. Okay, so that is the 4th limb, special damages. The 5th limb, which is what I want to dwell a little bit more on, is what we call the loss of life dependency. Okay, so when your loved one has died, they leave behind dependents. Ikiwa babako alikuwa ndo anakulipia school fees kwa sababu anafanya kazi, alikuwa ndo anakupatia pesa za matumizi for the house, alikuwa ana sort 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 things, and all of a sudden he is no more, there is a gap that has been left. So the court will award you the financial gap that your father or your sibling has left, if you are a dependent to them. Okay? And sometimes you don't have to have been a dependent to them. You just have to show that you have a beneficial interest in him and his estate. So kama ulikuwa ndugu yake ama dadake, then you can also demonstrate to court that there is loss of dependency. So why I decided to dwell a little bit more on this loss of dependency is because it has a particular legal formula of calculation. Okay? So when you lose someone, kama babako hivi, he was earning a salary, or if he was a businessman, there were incomes that he was generating. Okay? Also, if you lose this person, maybe in the normal life expectancy journey, he would have lived to say 70 years or 80 years. And in those years of his life, he would still be supporting you. Okay? So the law has come up with a formula to calculate how you are awarded this loss of dependency. So why I have taken time to explain the loss of dependency is because, one, it is the most amount that gets awarded in any fatal accident claim, and because also it has a distinct formula in which the law arrives at the figure. Okay, so the law will take the annual salary that your departed father or your departed whoever was earning. Okay, in law we call that a multiplicand. Okay, so watasema babangu was earning 50,000 shillings. Okay, so 50,000 times 12 ni pesa ngapi? So hiyo figure inaitwa multiplicand. Okay, alafu babangu maybe died when he was 45 years old. So my dad possibly had another 25 or 30 years old to live. So if it's 30 years old to live in the normal life expectancy, then the law will say, of these 30 years that my dad had to live, maybe he would still be sustaining his family, okay, for another 25 years. So itaeka something called a multiplier, 25 years, okay? And then they will apply something called a dependency ratio. to that amount and say, kwa sababu babangu alikuwa na watoto 5 and they were still dependent on him, they'll put it at 2 out of 3. So usually it's 3 out of 3, but someone can't totally be depended on by the family. So it has to be either 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3. Okay, and I know it sounds a bit complicated, but just down the road, I think I'll elaborate better. So 2 out of 3 is if your father had children and a wife that depended on him. 1 out of 3 is if he didn't have children, or he had all adult children that were fending for themselves and they were okay. Okay? So now that is the formula. So how you arrive at an amount, the quantum, or the number in which the court will award you, the court will take the salary of your father times 12 to get the multiplicand, which is the amount earned in a year, times the number of years that your father would possibly be sustaining the family. So they'll take like 25 years. If he died at 45, they'll take like 20 years. So they'll take the salary times the years that were remaining times the ratio, the dependency ratio, which is a third if they didn't have children or all their children are adults and fending for themselves, and 2/3 if he had children and a wife and they still have children that are depending on him. Okay? So atachukua kama 50,000 times 12 times 20 and times 2 out of 3. Whatever figure comes there is the figure that will be awarded to you as damages for loss of dependency. So I know money cannot bring back life. It never will. The experiences that you had with the deceased that can never be replayed, can never be recompensated by money, but at least it offers solace in these very trying times. The people who are awarded 3 million, there are those who are awarded 5 million, there are those who are awarded more, depending on the earnings of the deceased and also depending on the years of the deceased. So that is the fifth limb in which the court can award damages for someone who has died in an accident. So again, my heartfelt condolences to all the families that were affected in the Londiani accident. And naomba Mungu azidi kuwafariji. I know it's not easy during this trying time, but I thought I should shed some light on the legal remedies that are involved in accident claims. And if you are out there, not necessarily in the Londiani accident, if you've been involved in any accident and you believe that your family has a valid personal injury claim or a valid wrongful death claim, and maybe you're concerned about the cost of hiring a lawyer to represent you, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be happy to listen to your situation. I'll be happy to analyze or discuss with you the viability of your claim, and even possibly explore the options and explore even representing you on contingency basis. So don't sit out there and fail to access justice because of the costs associated with such cases. Okay, so as always, this is Law 254. Kindly subscribe to our channel so that we can continue growing and we can continue giving you useful tips and guidance on how you interact with the law on a day-to-day basis. Cheers.